male-to-female ratio skews higher for women in numerous Twin Cities restaurants and bars that book live music, though nobody remotely approaches a 50-50 gender balance. There's no comprehensive national database of performers, let alone gender breakouts. Our best guesstimates are female-led artists and bands make up at most 30% of available acts to book.
Yet female-led bands were booked at most 13% of the time.
There's just so few women on the local music scene, and I don't even know why. Sometimes I'm just like, where are the women?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
You don't know who the women are?
I don't know why we're not, why it's not a 50-50 split on these schedules.
That is a kind of a loaded question. There's so many potential reasons for that. It's not black and white. I mean, there's so many shades of gray.
I don't know the reason for that.
I don't know. That's what you're uncovering. I don't know, you know?
I know. Well, I'm trying to figure that out from you.
Yeah.
I'll keep relics of the mess we made. Relics of the mess we made.
Hi, we're Emily the Band. There's a video of One Direction. It's really a special moment for me just
So I've been singing since I could talk and kind of writing songs since I could form sentences. And then when I was, I think maybe 6 or 7, I started voice lessons.
My background and history with music, I guess it goes back like quite a long time. I was just kind of like a child who really loved music and who really loved to like sing, and my folks were kind enough to get me enrolled in piano lessons pretty young. I was like 8 when I started those.
And then started playing ukulele when I was maybe 13, and then started playing gigs when I was 16 or 17.
I do a lot of like percussion work, so I'll do like xylophone and vibes and stuff. I started that when I was in 5th grade and did drum set lessons for about 6 years throughout high school and elementary school.
When I was 14, I started playing guitar, and I kind of really fell in love with guitar specifically and fretted instruments specifically, and I started kind of taking that path of like guitar is my main instrument, and I just kept singing and songwriting, and yeah, I have always really loved music.
What I like to say like kind of inspired me to play the drums. One, my mom was very much for it. I don't even totally know why, but she was very much like, it would be so cool if you played drums. You should totally play the drums. And she like really wanted it for me. And I remember kind of vividly being at a basketball game where our school rock band was performing, and they had a girl drummer just doing their thing. And I remember being like, oh my God, that's so cool. I want to be like her. And I remember that very vividly and using that to just want to be just like her.
One of my first memories is just like, as like a little kid, seeing like local musicians play in my community and being like, whoa, that's a thing you can do, and then kind of finding out that like they were, in a lot of cases, getting money for that. I was like, whoa, that doesn't even seem real. That sounds like a dream, and I just kind of, once I got old enough, I started pursuing that for myself.
When Emily the Band came to our show, they immediately set their stuff down. I have a very specific memory because you're nodding. They set their stuff down. They were like, hi, I'm Emily. Hi, I'm Cammy. Hi. And I was like, this is how it's supposed to be. Like, oh, that's how normal people act. Rebecca Mangles, sight singing, 16.51, B flat major. So I grew up in the church, so I've been in loads of worship bands since I was like a preteen. I play ukulele, piano. I used to play violin, but mainly I sing. So I always say my voice is my primary instrument. I was so socially anxious that I didn't even want to sing. So I didn't sing for a long time. No. until Frozen came out in like 2013, and I would sing it all around the house, so I'm a musical babe. And I gradually got up the courage to like sing in worship bands, and then I kind of started writing songs around the same time. So when I was 12, I think I started writing my first whole songs.
Nearly every person we interviewed for this story acknowledges the music business is a boys' club. You'd think things could start to change.
The answer seems simple, right? Just hire more women. We found, though, it's more complicated than that.
The criteria that I look for when I book musicians is, first and foremost, is the quality of the performers. And if they have good social skills, are they professional? Can you come and be kind and be respectful? Do you speak well to especially women? When it's a male-dominated industry, that is a big deal. But I want to preface that by saying that's what I look for as the person that works for a municipality. So there is no profit. I'm not looking for a profit. I do a community service. We have this big budget where other venues and talent buyers have to look for, are they going to sell tickets? Because they're there to make money and it's a business. So what I do is completely different than maybe the talent buyer for the Castle Theater or something like that. So I would look for different things than them.
Obviously, as a privately owned business, one big criteria is that they can sell enough tickets to make sure that it is going to be financially feasible for them to come. And so a lot of times we'll get available dates from a band's booking agent. They're already routing a tour and they're going to be coming through our area. Other times we have specific targets in mind, whether it's, Pitchfork gave this band a great rating on their new record, or they played in a really cool room in Chicago and we want to get them here. As long as they have a fan base that wants to come out and see them, we're totally down for it.
Anytime I find a new band or they come across my computer, I get absolutely excited and giddy. I had so many female-fronted bands this year, reach out and get a hold of me. It's not equal to the male, but now I'm seeing more and more of them. So I get absolutely so excited when they come across, and I will snatch them up in 2 seconds.
Unfortunately, the business side comes into things. It's very hard to go out and say, all right, I need more female artists this month. Well, if they're not available, then they're not available.
I don't think people are cognizant of, you have to book women for people to come out for women, and you have to consistently do that. But I also understand, as like the Castle Theater, like there are places where the bottom line is making money. It's a business. So they would have to book these women to come in knowing that they're potentially going to lose money for the greater good. Also, it's for the greater good. Do the thing. Figure out how to make it make sense. So that's where I love my job, because again, it's not about profit, it's about booking for the community and what I feel that they need to see. Really, it's all up to me and whatever I want to do. I can book all women and no men.
I think folks that need to look at both sides of that and know that, the majority of us are trying to make it open and equal as much as possible.
I mean, if it could just be about the music, everything would be fine, right? Well, no matter what age you are in the music business, any theatrical entertainment kind of business, it's constant rejection. So I have to remind myself of that. If I was in any other business, I would be quite successful, and but this is the entertainment industry. This is the way it is. This is the jam that it is. So.
Okay, so the band makes a lot of money off of the tips, so feel free to give love to the band over here, and over here. We'll take all the love we can get, and be sure to take care of Shannon and Kristen and Ruben behind the bar. We're back. It's Denise LeBrassi with some new music for you, including this one. Stephen Ron on guitar, Jeffrey Wheaton on bass, and Ian Fountain on the drums, bringing it.
To work as a female, to work as an older musician, I'm not in my 20s, 30s, I'm north of 40, as I like to say. I'm north of 40 now, and that's the brand I have out there. My mother inspired me to get into music. We have to really start with my mom. She used to sit downstairs in the basement and pound on the piano and just make up songs and sing them and write songs. Much like what I do every day. I just come up with songs in my head every day, put them on my phone, or just start singing them like I did this morning.
it's gonna sound good. Rise on the dream ride, rise on the dream ride.
When I first arrived in Chicago, I was in a blues funk band, and I was really drawn to the blues and funk, old soul music. People ask me at a venue when I come in to book the band, I will often say that, you know, I'm the leader, but my band members are, you know, they're a younger group of musicians that I work with. And I work with a younger group of musicians because they're available, right? They don't have families, they're not in a day job, they're actually available. So it's for my own, you know, to build my music and to build my brand, I have to work with people who are able to travel, you know, and head out and are not committed to, like, let's say, a jobbing band, wedding bands. So that's real tricky, it's not easy, whereas back when I was younger it was much easier. There was plenty of people available to work with who were able to travel and just pick up and go. Now it's not as easy.
I think it's something that everyone can struggle with regardless of gender, even though I was checking all the boxes of what even I would say was success. Like, even if you measure it on, like, yo, did you pay this month's bills with art that you got paid for? Check. You know, did you play an awesome show with a huge crowd that was really into it? Check. Like, I was filling all the boxes, but in my head, I still didn't see myself as successful.
I think that females are always held to a specific standard.
I'm at a certain age where I'm like, okay, she doesn't look right, she looks like a big cow. That girl over there, who's like some person who wants to play in my club, it's not working for it.
Men are not always the ones who are guilty of these transgressions. Like, we unfortunately, and usually unknowingly, police each other too.
I feel like I have to put so much more time into my appearance because otherwise I just won't look good. And yeah, I have to wear different clothes than I would normally wear. I have to wear different makeup than I would normally wear. I have to wear something that attracts attention because otherwise I think I'm worried people actively won't pay attention to me on stage and they're like, oh, she's just wearing a skirt and t-shirt like I normally do. And they'd be like, oh, she doesn't take her job seriously.
This next song I wrote about fuckboys, and they're all like my misogynist experiences on the dating app conglomerated into one horrible toxic man. This one time a guy said, come over, and I said no, and he said, but I'm high and I want to fuck. Thank you! I was like, I was not aware there was a fuck coupon going around for when you're high. So I hope you like it. It's called Boys. With an I. Boy.
I want to look nice and I want to look colorful and present well and feel comfortable about being the performer, right? And it's fun to do that. However, at the same time, I want you to be focusing on what your ears on what I'm writing and performing, not on my revealing whatever, you know, that just doesn't, that's not comfortable for me.
There's definitely times where I'm like, oh, like maybe that's a little too much cleavage for me to feel comfortable at this place where there will be strange dudes that I don't know, because the girlies are always like, oh my God, you look so good. And the dudes are like, not making eye contact with me.
So yeah, and that is, I'll tell you one thing, that is the most challenging piece for me, is dressing. If there's anything that's a big challenge, the hurdle for me at this age and stage is how do I dress? How do I present myself to my audience without looking like I'm trying to look like I'm 25?
When I'm choosing what to wear for a show, it's definitely for myself. And like in my current era, I'm like dressing for myself the most that I've ever been.
She says she's gonna love you, love you.
There's a record company, I can't remember, it was Warner Reprise, and the A&R person was showing me the albums and the women that they were hiring and that they were signing and all of that, and they were wearing, you know, very sexy, revealing kind of looking stuff. And I think he was trying to, he didn't come out and say it out loud because he respected me, but he was like, this is what my director is looking for, this. And he would send me all the albums. He's like, your music is really great, but this is the kind of look we're looking for. This is the kind of image that we're selling. This is what we're selling. And basically it didn't go anywhere because you gotta dress like this, you gotta look like this. And I'm like, and I just never did it. And I also never, I was so naive, I didn't even pick up on it. I'm like, oh, I just was like not even putting two and two together, you know?
That's so funny.
It is, isn't it? It's not funny, actually.
No, it's not. It's
and
just funny that you didn't pick up on it. And now
yeah, I didn't even pick up on it because I was just like, hey, I'm just gonna be me. But just being me didn't, you know, if I had just gone a little in that direction, I think there would have been better results.
Coming into the musical space, I'm just very aware that the way I dress is not how men dress in that space. I'm thinking of these guys who would show up for their gig and they were wearing like a pizza uniform. Like, I just think it's so funny because they were like still wearing the cap and everything. It's like the t-shirt, and I was like, you just came from work, like you don't even want to take a second to like change into a t-shirt after you're done. Like, it doesn't even take that long for men to change, but they can literally show up in whatever the fuck they want.
Let's say, for example, one of my other bandmates decides, you know, I'm gonna pop off and be super femme tonight. I'm gonna wear like a skirt and makeup and my hair all long, and I'm gonna present like very femme, which is a slay. Like, it sucks for me to watch other people treat me with inherently more respect than they treat them, because their appearance is closer to an expression of femininity. And like, I think that's the discouraging thing. I think that is a huge part of the reason why it's harder for us folks to feel that audacity to be able to just step on stage, is because like, when people are treating you, whether it's directly or indirectly, again and again and again, like you inherently don't know what you're doing, even after you've done the work to prove yourself and show that you do, and you do, and you do, and it just keeps happening, that stuff gets to you.
And so when girls go into that space, you know, it's more likely the guys are going to be like, what is she doing here? She's the drummer? Okay, interesting. Let's, you know, prove it. Prove that you're good enough to do this. I've caught myself doing that a lot of times where I have been like, oh, I didn't expect her to be the drummer. Let me see if she's like good. And then I had to like stop myself and be like, why do you think that? Why can't you just be like, oh, she's a drummer, she's gonna be good? You know, why can't you just automatically go to that because you're shocked?
Women in this industry really have a hard time getting in and being taken seriously. And it's sad, but women have to just pull up their bootstraps and keep going.
Why are you surprised that, you know, somebody in like a floofy pink skirt and little heels comes up with a guitar and then just starts melting your face? Why did you say, oh my gosh, that really surprised me? Like, this is not, it is primarily an oppressive tactic used by people who aren't femme.
Do you know how many mediocre dudes get up on a stage and act like they are Led Zeppelin without working as like hard as we will have to?
And I think it's also like that mindset that we as feminine presenting people get trained into, of like default to assume you don't know what you're doing, default to not trust your instincts, default to believe that you can't do things and you can't just give it the old try.
You know that everyone's looking at you, like ready for you to like prove yourself. There is that other aspect of like girls and femmes who play harder rock music. You're not just like, they don't look at you and they're not just like, oh, they're talented. There also is that ingrained like sexualization of it, where it's like, oh, you're so hot for doing that. You can't just be a cool, good drummer. And that's disgusting and really demeaning. And that's just kind of like another hill to battle, like knowing that everyone is only first being like, oh, let me see how good this person's gonna be. I don't know if she's like actually gonna be good.
If I walk into the room and I don't play perfect, I don't play as the best I can, everyone's gonna be like in their mind, oh, I was right that this person was not gonna be that good. Because unfortunately, sometimes that's what folks think. You walk into the room, you look a certain way, they assume you don't know what you're doing, and you just don't want to be the person to prove that.
And then when you do prove yourself, it's like, whoa, that's like attractive, that she's not like stupid.
Anyone know where the chords for the piano are out here?
I remember meeting a band who we were gigging with, and they were all comprised of men, right? I didn't even like meet them officially, like they were all kind of just there, and they were all kind of just like, oh, we're so cool, we're smoking weed, we're playing our really masculine music for setting up this gig, and I like never met them. And yeah, none of them just bothered to talk to me at all or say like, thank you so much for asking us to open for you, nothing like that. I want to meet the people who I'm working with, and that's just a very small example of how like women and non-binary people just bring out so much more emotional awareness into the space, and they make it like a collaboration. Is it gonna fit? Yeah, that works. Cool. Thanks. How much is the covering? Yeah. Where do you want it? Just up there. Yeah, like over here.
Where are all the women as we got older?
Right.
Can you answer that question? Where are they?
Beaten down, discouraged, crying, mentally ill. It's nothing like novel, but you know, the patriarchy is so real and we see it every day. And yeah, it's just like we grow up and we realize that we will be perceived in unsavory ways if we do not behave in expected ways and in encouraged ways.
I was a band director for 15, like straight up all day band director for 15 years before doing this role now. So I've seen this play out a lot. There's an interesting societal thing where girls, female identifying individuals, are allowed to participate in traditionally masculine activities and are actually encouraged nowadays to participate in traditionally masculine activities, but it does not go the other way.
There's a lot of gendered expectations we set up for children, and I think that that needs to change. You know, like even in the classical world when I was in school, in college specifically, there was a lot of women and only a few men. And so then the men would always get a role, and then women, you'd be competing with these like amazing people who are probably gonna go on to have an opera career.
I definitely do feel underrepresented, but when I was like younger, honestly, I just wasn't aware of it.
When I was younger in like show choir and voice lessons and like musical things, there were like no guys. Like we were always hurting for boys to be a part of things.
When I was a kid and I wanted to learn piano, I was very encouraged to stick by it. I'm also the eldest child, so that factors into it as well. When my brothers took piano and they weren't into it, it was no problem if they wanted to drop.
Boys are strongly discouraged from participating in traditionally feminine activities, which is horrible for a lot of reasons. Not only the fact that that's just unequal for those people, but also the fact that saying a masculine activity is okay for everybody, but a feminine activity is not okay for boys, gives a value judgment about those activities. And during that time, adolescence, when you really are establishing your gender identity, I think it's really important to give them examples of men, women, everybody in between doing the things that they want to do.
I feel like it's something that goes far beyond just the music industry. You can't be what you can't see.
The shape of guitars wasn't modified until the 1990s to fit into a woman's body also screams women weren't welcome.
And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and just like a spiral of, it's not there, I can't be it, I won't be it, it's not there. I very, very rarely ever saw anybody who looked like me and shared my identities fulfilling the roles that I wanted to fulfill.
I feel like as a singer, especially, it is like a fear in the future that like I won't have as big as like an audience simply because of the way I look. I don't know that many like hijabis that do music. It's not like a common thing.
I am non-binary. You know, I definitely identify as like femme. And I know that I go through the world and a lot of people see me as a woman, I get treated as a woman. But something very unique that I've gone through that I wanted to talk about what has been affirming for me in the past couple of years is to just like present myself a little more androgynously, which for me, you know, tends to be like adding a little more like what you would call traditionally masculine fashion into my style to kind of counteract the parts of me that are a little more feminine. And one thing that I have noticed again and again and again is that back before I used to present more androgynously, I used to present really cute and really feminine. And that's just how I liked to dress at the time. I was a teen and I liked to wear like pastels and bows and skirts, feminine. And at the time, you know, I was like, oh, I'm a girl. The difference in treatment that I have experienced with a very feminine, very cute presentation and with a more androgynous presentation of myself have been drastic. They've been really drastic. The discouraging thing about that is that when I was very femininely presenting, there was just so much more of that. I'm gonna assume you don't know what you're doing. But the general respect that I tend to receive from other people when I walk into the room has gone up the further away I've gone from a presentation of femininity. And that has sucked so bad and it has made me feel horrible. A huge part of the problem of why it feels unsafe, especially once it gets to a certain part of the night, you know, later on in the night, is because it is clearly a space that the whole center of the evening is platforming like men or like masculine presenting artists.
I can tell you, like, it's draining to be like so emotionally aware all the time when there's men in those spaces and a lot of the audience members are men and they're moshing and they're going really hard. And like, look, I've moshed, I love it, I think it's great, but there's a safe way to mosh and there's a very male, frankly unsafe way to mosh that I don't prefer, that just involves a lot of brute strength.
And I think that is part of what makes it an environment where certain behaviors are not being called out, where certain behaviors are just being kind of, you know, to put it in a casual term, bro-coded away.
So we all kind of keep an eye on each other. When we're at the gig, we kind of are like, all right, Abby's there, Cammy's there, Cassie's there. And usually if there's like a strange vibe, there's the look that all like femmes know. That's like, hey, come help me please.
Guys can just be so entitled and arrogant with their space that it's like they were there first, and in order for girls to go in, you have to like prove yourself as good enough. And that is terrifying a lot of times, because there are so many times where like I will be looking forward to a show, but then when I'm like actually there playing, I'm just like nervous.
We were playing hopscotch on satin strings.
So, you know, femmes start to leave, and they start to leave, and they start saying, yeah, I'll go home early, it's fine. And then other femmes there are like, oh, there are less girls here. So, you know, Emily also talked about that girl code thing of like that look of like, hey, come help me, that you can even share with a girl or a femme person you don't even know. And suddenly there's no one else there but you, and you feel unsafe, so you just leave. And anyone who's left of those few people could potentially find themselves in some really unfavorable situations, because there's not someone there to like help them, unless there happens to be men who are like, I'm willing to call out other men's behavior that is wrong. And unfortunately, that's not something that like a whole ton of men have been wanting to hold themselves accountable to doing.
It's a tough industry because there's sexual harassment, sexual assault.
And I also think there's a lot of bad people out there, men specifically, who have been child molesters, sexually abusive to their staff. For me, toxic masculinity is just a vibe. And I can tell when someone doesn't respect me, and it's been a lot in the music scene.
Well, there was one time, this was one of a billion instances, where I went to go to the bathroom, and as I came out of the bathroom, I had a skirt on and a you know, like a tank top. As I come out of the bathroom, there's a big group of college boys, or college, well, I call them boys or boys to me now because I'm older. So they were all standing around. There had to have been about 20 of them. So I'm trying to get through to go get to my friends. And I'm like, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. And as I kind of get in the middle of them, they all round up around me, lock me in the middle of them. All of a sudden I have hands up my skirt, under my underwear, up my shirt. They are in. I'm screaming and I'm throwing elbows and I hear laughing. I was 19 years old. You have to say something. You have to speak up. I've always been very outspoken. I am my mother's daughter. Like, I just get loud. So I've always been, since I hit puberty, I've always been very loud, and I have no problem screaming and saying this person's doing that. But I'm seeing a lot of these young women keeping it to themselves and pushing forward, and that's no way to live. That's no way to live.
Girls try to go out into the scene and they just get treated really badly again and again and again. And then they think, this sucks, and they leave, which is a very rational response. I always hate when folks will be like, so you want to talk about how there's not representation for femme artists? Well, then why aren't the girls, why don't they just join the scene? Why don't they just do that? Why don't they just play guitar? Why don't they just start producing? I'm like, because they're sick of being treated like this. Like, you clearly don't have that experience. Like, you would understand if you had been through it. But you can't be mad at people for not wanting to be a part of a scene that repeatedly puts them down.
People just don't like women, and it sucks. And so putting women just on the stage, people are just so quick to be dismissive about it and don't want to be supportive, but that sucks.
Well, if women can't be successful musicians, explain Taylor Swift. So, I don't know if you have any thoughts on her.
Well, we can talk about Taylor Swift till we're blue in the face. We see this vitriol and hate against her because she's a successful woman, and the vast majority of it is these men saying these things that have never heard her. Read her lyrics and understand. She's one of the smartest, most intelligent women on planet Earth. That's why she's a billionaire.
When I was a bit younger and I was in high school, I'd tell people, oh, I would like to be a career musician, a full-time musician. And so what a lot of folks would say first is like, oh, like Taylor Swift, which is super cool. Taylor Swift is literally so influential to the entire industry and so badass and so cool. However, not like Taylor Swift though, not like Taylor Swift. Like, she's great, but I wanted to be a producer. I wanted to be a shredder guitarist, a bassist, somebody who could be in my own studio and create something where there was nothing.
So what is the solution? How can we help underrepresented genders in music?
I'm honored. There's so much to do on a Friday night. I'm so honored that y'all chose to be here. The biggest kind of reason why we wanted to create this space, just to speak for Rebecca, but also myself. So I'm non-binary, they, them, theirs pronouns. I'm genderqueer, and so I don't have to explain to y'all that it's like non-men be dominating this industry. Like, I don't have to explain that to anybody here, but I just was so happy to work on this because I just felt like I could be completely my authentic self here with all of you, and all the bands here are just so badass, and like getting to highlight them was such a privilege.
We're both organizers of Gender Envy, and we're so grateful. We just wanted to make a space for underrepresented genders in the music industry. And yeah, I'm just gonna kick it right off. Are you good with that? Okay.
I'll keep relics of the mess we made. Relics of the mess we made.
What are you doing, Emily?
My heart melted with each note you made. Who's your next muse? Who is mine? And whose will I be? Will we find ourselves in between the lines?
Women rule, and we're gonna dominate. Just give us a little bit of time.
When I'm old and crow's feet remain from when our cheeks would hurt the same, and I'll keep relics of
so mad we just want to bark.
Us two young kids, 3 strong words I never said aloud. One cold night, one stone bench, 2 of us, 2 young kids, 3 strong